Hello and welcome to the space between ideas. I'm Blaine Gates. The question which is on my mind is, do I need to learn from my own mistakes or can I learn from the mistakes of others? In the last couple of videos, we've been looking at the concept of output, input, scenarios, and choice. And we've been particularly focused on the concept of output. We will continue to focus on the area of output. We're going to do a quick little review, and then we are going to attack the question which I posed at the beginning of this video. Let's start with the direct outcomes checklist, state drive. Drive, it is comprised of two elements. One is the level of effort, and the other is the element of success. And in order to understand how well you are doing as a person, or to understand how well your staff is doing in terms of performance, then we're going to need to be able to review those elements. If you look at any kind of performance review, it's always a combination of the ability of your staff to perform in terms of level of effort and level of success. But what do those elements actually mean? If we break down the level of effort, then we can compare it to, for example, a football game. So a football game, it's a very defined amount of time. And in order to understand how well your team is performing, what we want to know is how well can your players focus during that period of time. And in addition to focus, we particularly want to know if they're able to focus during the most intense parts of the competition, meaning when everybody is tired and when your players have to dig deep, they have to find some hidden reserve. They have to be able to let go of their pain and their doubt and their weakness and their tiredness, and they have to be able to find strength. They have to be able to find clarity, and they have to be able to push when the other team is unable to do so. That's how you win in terms of effort. And success, likewise, it also has some comprising elements. For example, methods. What are the methods that we're using? What is our level of skill? How much knowledge do we have? And as we are able to find people to put on our team that are highly skilled, highly knowledgeable, and understand the methods that are used in the particular game, then we are going to find more success. All right, so now we have increased our performance. And in addition, we also discussed how we can improve our level of effort, and then eventually we can increase our skills and ability until we have a high level of effort, a high level of success. We are now competing. Then we talked about how over the long term, we want to be able to maintain a high level of success while at the same time we need to lower our level of effort. And that's what brings us over to the concept of, well, the intermediate step is understanding that we need to have a competitive advantage. We need to have some ability to stay on top of the dominance hierarchy. And in terms of state styles, the next checklist in the things that we're talking about recently, we're talking about processes. And particularly, we've been talking about the concept of optimization, automation. We talked about embedded, where we are going to be combining our resources and our work and our methods in order to reduce the number of inputs and to get the same or better results. Now, let's go back to the original question of the video, which is, okay, but I don't exactly have a really great process, or I don't have enough time to start something new. All right, so these are really the two basic problems when you start thinking about creating a new process. First is that I'm not exactly sure what to do first. I'm not exactly sure how to run this process. And secondly, I don't really have enough time or energy to implement some new kind of process. I want to have a side hustle, or I want to improve my team, or I want to improve our business, or I want to improve our products, or I want to have a better website, or I want to renovate our store location, or I want to have more sales. But we don't have any more resources. We don't have any more time. We don't have any more, what do we do? So sometimes when we look at this first area of starting a new process, we have to also, like, it's like a two-sided coin. This coin is called nil. Nil, it means zero, nada, nilch. In a football game, it's the team who has zero. And you might be starting from zero in terms of some particular process that you want to build. And like I said, you said that you don't have enough time or resources in order to build some new process. And in that case, we flip the coin and it lands on its other side of nil, which means that you have to wind down some other process. There's something that you're doing right now that either you have to delegate to somebody else, or you have to automate, or you have to wind down that process. Maybe there's a process that's not getting you the results that you want to achieve, and so you need to wind that down. But certainly a processes inventory is helpful to understand what are the processes which you are currently implementing. In fact, before you start using the checklist state styles from the book Create Crucial Insight, I usually go through actual processes that people are now implementing. And it's really good to list all of the processes. Sometimes it's difficult to list all the processes. Anyways, in my own business, I've listed all of the processes which I have. And this is what helped me to understand that there are some things which I am currently doing, which I have to do less of. I started blocking time in my schedule because in order to have enough energy and enough resources to put into new processes, I have to reduce the amount of time and energy I'm putting into some of my old processes. It doesn't mean that I have to wind down, but like if you're already working 8 hours a day and you want to do a side hustle on the side, how? So is it possible for you to reduce the amount of time that you spend at work in order that you have more time and energy to focus on some side business? I mean, that sounds really tough, but I mean, like you only have so much time in the day, you only have so much energy each day. And like, how can you really do something else if you're already fully employed in what you're doing now? All right, so now we're on to the final question is, okay, so what's the difference? What's the difference between learning from my own mistakes, learning from somebody else's mistakes? Imagine you're standing at the side of a park and you say, hey team, come on over here. Or maybe it's your future self. It's the aim. It's the thing that you want to be doing. And it's saying, hey, if you want to be here, if you want to be in a situation where we are here achieving this goal or this aim, then you need to start taking steps toward this area. Now that might sound like we're starting a process. Yes. But now let's look a couple of steps in the future. So now you're kind of like moving around and you hear the sound and you're taking steps, and then what happens? Boom, you hit your head on a tree and whoo, you fall into a hole. Why? Because you're blind. Because you have to learn from your own mistakes. You're doing something for the first time because you don't really know what you're doing. And that's okay. And I used to teach this principle. It's called haphazard in the state styles checklist. And I told a lot of people this story, and I love telling the story of, oh, you hit yourself in the head. Oh, you fall into the hole. You're running around blindfolded. And then this one guy, he's like, no, that's not me. And I said, what do you mean it's not you? He said, no, like actually what I do is I first do research. I figure out best practices. I look at what other companies are doing. I set up the processes. I'm a computer programmer. It means that all of the processes have to be coded first. And after all of the code is set up, then we push play. Then we start going. And then we do what needs to be done. I learn from other people's mistakes first, and then I implement them in my own project. Now, yeah, you're right. But the thing is that even when you write code, that doesn't mean you're writing bug-free code. So to some extent, it's important. Yes, of course, we're going to be doing benchmarking. We're going to be looking at best practices. We're going to figure out the best way to do the job. But when you actually start walking, actually walking is different than reading a book about walking. And so getting up on your feet the first time is going to be a heck of a lot more understanding than what you read to understand what it is to walk. So let's keep on walking, let's keep on moving, and let's figure out how to make better processes.